My name is Caitlin Eve. I am a singer-songwriter out of New York City, and this is my behind the song of my new single, Crush. I tend to gravitate towards sad songs. I love a good sad song. And when the idea for this song came into my head, it was finally like a very lighthearted, romantic song. And I felt like I didn't write enough of those, so I really wanted to lean into the romance of it all and write a little bit more of a happy, lighthearted song. I wrote it when I had the flu. I was so sick, I was in a fevered dream. I remember laying on my couch and this tune just kind of came into my head. It was nothing more than, is it just a crush? Da, 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 da. Like I only had those 3 words and the rest of it was just kind of like, I think this is maybe where it'll go. Then the rest of the song just kind of sprang from there once I was no longer fevered with the flu. Bar lights humming low, winter's in the city, I'm moving too damn slow. Conversations echo, shadowed indigo. Your sultry eyes confide me, whiskey, warmed up soul, shattered self-control. It was right before the holidays. The city was quiet because a lot of people had gone home for the holidays. It also overnight happened to drop like 20 degrees in the city, so it went to the single digits. It was freezing, it was miserable outside, there was a terrible wind chill, and despite all that, I still had a gig that night in Manhattan I knew I had to go to, and I knew that absolutely nobody was going to be there. There's nobody who was going to trek through this miserable cold, just like eats through you wind, but I was like, whatever, it'll be fine. We're just gonna like lean into whatever this night being and have very low expectations. So I went to the bar that I was playing at. There was a group of guys that was kind of sitting in the back, and felt like in that moment I like locked eyes with one of them and we kind of had a connection while I was on stage, and that's how the first verse came to be. So just building that scene of this is what the bar was looking like, this is what I was feeling. You kind of lock eyes with that stranger and you have a little whiskey in your system and maybe feeling a little bit more bold than usual. Is it just a crush, or are we starting some great love? My heart's 3 steps ahead, logic behind. But if it's just a crush, then why's my head staring and face to flush? Little love addicts crafting fables in her mind again. After meeting this person, I immediately had such a crush on him. I was getting excited about it, having those butterflies. I have a habit of getting a little too ahead of myself sometimes, so that's really what the chorus is speaking to. Like, is this just a crush, or is this the start of something more? Is this the start of some big grand love, some big romance? I have a habit of getting a little ahead of myself. My heart's 3 steps ahead. Who cares about the logic behind it all? Who cares if I just met this person one time? Like, I think we're probably in love now. That's where the little love addict comes into play, because I think sometimes I just get too excited. I start building these stories, crafting fables in her mind. So, silly little jokes, blushing and electric, playfully provoke. Hours feel like minutes, lost in our tempo, wrapped in conversation, suddenly alone. Won't you take me home? I wanted to kind of build in that feeling of meeting somebody for the first time and being really excited about them, and just lean into the Dear Diary entry of it all. So like you meet somebody and you're talking to your best friend on the phone, or you're like writing a diary entry, and what does that look like? What does that feel like? You meet a new guy that you're crushing on, and you guys are talking and you're sharing these silly jokes, you're poking fun at one another, you're losing track of time. All of a sudden it's like 5 in the morning and you're still sitting at the bar, just kind of wrapped up in your own little world. So that is how the second verse came to be. Am I floating on a fantasy that's never touching down? Cotton candy clouds can feed my sugar high. 1 foot on the gas, reality might come around, but I choose to craft my own sweet lullaby. The bridge just leans more into that fantasy world that sometimes I find myself in. Am I floating on a fantasy that's never coming down? This feeling is going to feed me. I don't need to know what reality is. I'm just gonna live in my own fantasy world. 1 foot on the gas, I'm gonna push forward and keep living in this dream world rather than accepting or coming to terms with exactly what the reality is. I choose to craft my own lullaby. I choose to craft my own story in this little romance that I've created. Is it just a crush? Why am I in such a rush? Before I know if you're the one for me. But if it's just a crush, my eyes are shining brighter when we touch. Maybe this romance is the one that's meant to be. For the last chorus, I wanted to play with the words a little bit more and maybe finally come out of that reality world and have a little bit of self-reflection. Is this just a crush? Why am I in such a rush? Why do I feel like I need to jump 3 steps ahead? Why do I have to feel like I need to create this big fantasy world? Why can't I just live in this moment and figure out who this person is and do I actually like them, or was it just like one nice moment that we shared together? So a little bit of self-reflection, but then going back into the original chorus saying, is it just a crush or is this the start of some good love? I don't know, we'll see. And yeah, that's Crush.
Is it just a crush or are we starting some